Hello, good evening, namaste, and a very warm welcome to all the viewers of bharatv. Dr. Sampadananda Mishra is a renowned Sanskrit scholar who is passionate about Sanskrit and has delved deep into the roots of the Indic civilization and knowledge system. Dr. Mishra has spoken at various conferences, seminars on Sanskrit, Indian culture, yoga, spirituality, and education, both nationally and internationally. Dr. Mishra, as the devotee of Sri Aurobindo and the mother, worked as the associate editor of the collected works of Vashishta Kavyakantha Ganapati Muni, published in 12 volumes. Dr. Mishra has founded and launched the first ever 24 hours Sanskrit radio called Divyavani and is single-handedly managing the entire content since its inception in 2013. In 2014, Dr. Mishra founded Sanskrita Bala Sahitya Parishad with the aim of creating, evaluating, and propagating children's literature in Sanskrit. Recently, Dr. Mishra has launched a monthly magazine for children in Sanskrit called Varna. And the government of India has conferred the President's Award, Maharshi Badrayan Vyas Samman 2011 on Dr. Mishra for his outstanding contribution to Sanskrit. Please welcome Dr. Sampadananda Mishra. And we have with us from CaresGlobal, RichaGautam, who does not need any introduction. Welcome, Richa, and welcome, Dr. Sampadananda Mishra. bharatv is very honored to have both of you in their studio.
Thank you so much, Anjalee ji. I think we are so honored to have Dr. Mishra touring United States. And Sampadananda ji, you've done probably about 20 odd events over the last 25 days. This is the last leg of your tour in Seattle. I guess my main question today would be, to begin with, is what are the highlights, in a couple of minutes, if you can tell us, maybe the top 3 highlights of your tour that you think, you enjoyed a lot, or you big takeaway.
Okay, namaskar to all you. And dhanyavad to Bharat TV for this program. And dhanyavad Richa ji for asking me this question. So it is really a matter of delight for me to share some of my thoughts with regard to the tour and with regard to various other questions or topics that we are going to discuss. So the programs in different places, like in Boston, we had a full day workshop on introduction to the Veda. It was really very well responded, and Samskrita Bharati and this parents, Hindu Parents Network. So they had organized one evening session on Avadhana Kala. So on Avadhana Kala, which is a rare art form in India. So it was again like 80-90 people had participated here very actively. So these were 2 very beautiful programs, very well responded. Then in San Jose, again, Samskrita Bharati had organized, along with a few other stakeholders, a session on rootedness, connecting ourselves with our own cultural heritage, the spiritual heritage. So how do we become rooted in our civilizational values? So that was the topic, and many enthusiastic participants, they were overwhelmed, and they asked various kinds of questions, And it was really beautiful interacting with so many young people, taking interest in the civilizational values of Bharat, and knowing more about and showing more interest about learning Sanskrit in innovative ways. And their questions really showed the kind of deep interest that they have and the passion that is growing in them to know more about the language, the culture, the heritage, the Rishi tradition. So this is what made me feel happy. And another important event was in Florida, the Waves conference. So where I had presented my uh, thoughts on how life becomes beautiful when we follow the injunctions or follow the path which has been shown to us by our rishis. So, in general, we find that the life has ceased to become beautiful because we have stayed away from all that is beautiful, all that can make life beautiful. So I highlighted on four different words like Saushamya, which means beauty, Samarasya, which means harmony, Samatva, which means equilibrium, and Swadhamma, which means one's own home, one's real home, attaining to that state of Satyam, Rhythm, and Brihat.
So I have a question here. Uh, Dr. Mishra, you have spoken a lot about rooted tradition and you talk a lot about staying rooted. If you could elaborate a little bit more on what you actually mean by staying rooted.
Yeah. So, staying rooted in our own civilizational values, it means to be truly connected first with oneself. The idea of swa, that there is something of the swa at the individual level, at the collective level. So we call it as the vyashti, and at the samashti level. So vyashti means purely individual, and samashti can be our family, our you know society, our state, our country, and then the rest of the world can be samashti as the humanity. So at each level, there is something, the swa, the real self of ours. Everything in this creation has a nucleus of its own. And unless and until we are connected with that core consciousness, that nucleus, that inmost part of ours, then we are not really touching upon or not really getting a clarity about who we are and how should we move in life. So this is where I highlight three components of our civilization which made or which gave strength to the civilizational foundation. Okay. So these three are like our ancient rishis could discover a supreme spirituality, which is at the core of everything that our ancestors did. The supreme spirituality. Then comes this spirituality is not a dry spirituality that you give up the world, go to Himalayas, or sit under a tree in some ekant and no engagement with the world, and then do some meditation, tapasya. It's not that kind of spirituality which our ancient seers preached. So this spirituality also, had along with a very stupendous vitality, dynamism. That's how our ancient seers could, create tirelessly, create monuments, create, look at the architecture, the sculpture, the kind of monuments, the kind of things, even roads, buildings, whatnot, creating different kinds of shastras. So different kinds of, things in life. The life was full of, dynamism. Along with this stupendous vitality, there was also the robust intellectuality. So the supreme spirituality, the stupendous vitality, and the robust intellectuality, there has been no branch of knowledge where our ancient seers and sages have not contributed original thoughts. Pick up any subject, any branch of knowledge, you will find original shastras, original ideas in a language which again was conducive to the supreme consciousness, conducive to the swa. Like we have a swa of our own self, our own inmost being. The same way, Bharat also has its own swa. So we need to have that swabodha, understanding of ourselves. So this understanding is very much necessary to understand ourselves and to understand others and to understand the very nation of ours. So what is that swa, that self, that spirit of Bharat? So this is what I mean by rootedness, and there are various ways by which we can get a deeper understanding of this swa.
That was actually my next question to you, because it looks like that getting that deeper understanding of that sphere of our own inner self, and a lot of spiritual traditions, they talk about it. Some most spiritual traditions, they actually recommend a path of some kind of yoga or meditation. So is there anything like that that you recommend to those who want to attain this connectedness with their own inner self? Did we lose you, Sampadananji? I think we lost him. Oh, he's back. Sampadananji, I hope you were able to hear my question. Do you want me to
No,
repeat my question?
no. Yes, please repeat because there was a glitch, I think. So I
Okay,
didn't see both of you.
no
Didn't
problem.
hear me.
No
Yeah,
problem.
you are.
So apparently, this connection with the self, with the swa, is a very important component of the Indian spirituality, Eastern spirituality. And there are different traditions who recommend the path of yoga or meditation to get in touch with that inner core or get in touch with the swa. What is the path that you recommend in order to get in touch with your inner core?
Okay. So that's a very good question, and it's actually a question by many when you present about Swa. So now, if you look very closely, our Rishi tradition, so our tradition doesn't prescribe any single path or single way. What it says that everyone has to find out one's own path. First, one has to be convinced that yes, there is something higher, there is something deeper, there is a higher world, there is a higher truth, there is a higher light, there is something called Ananda, which one has to get into. But in order to attain to that higher state of consciousness, or higher state of silence, or higher state of Ananda, higher state of light or truth, one has to find out the path for oneself. One has to create one's own discipline conducive to one's own temperament, one's own swabhava and swadharma. Yet there are many guidelines. For example, some people may feel like sitting in silence in the nature. Some people may feel like sitting in a temple, in an ashram, or in a lonely place. Some people may feel like, okay, I just become more silent or more meditative while studying, while teaching, while drawing, while painting, or while listening to music, or while doing certain ritual. So everyone finds a different path and must find out, but it has to be conducive with one's own temperament, one's own, like swabhava and swadharma. So there is no imposition in our tradition. There is nothing like one size fits all model. So therefore we talk about a Nana Pantha. There are various paths. Some people may feel like doing some yoga, but others may feel like, okay, I'll go to gym or I'll do something. But something has to be. I'm not saying that going to gym is the best way, or this is worst way, or that is better way. So one has to find for oneself. But there are many paths: yoga, pranayama, like nature, music, dance, architecture, sculpture. There's so many things people can do. But the whole purpose has to be that whatever path we are choosing, it must be conducive to our temperament, our inner swabhava and swadharma, and we have to evaluate that it's helping us in our inner growth. It's helping in expanding our consciousness. It is helping in bringing more and more joy to us day by day. So that is where one has to evaluate
And
oneself.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think those three things that you said, they are a key, and that's why I want to repeat that all these things that you're recommending you're actually not recommending. You're saying one has to choose their own path, but inner growth, uh, finding that inner joy and evolving oneself. So anything that resonates with that, you will know that that is your true path. I think that is what you're trying to say.
Even sometimes, like people ask, okay, I'm following a path, but how do I know whether I'm on the right path or not? That's also a big question amongst others. So for me, like I simply have evaluated myself on this basis that if whatever I am doing is, like not creating any kind of disharmony within or without, so it is giving me peace. It is giving me a piece of, along with dynamism. Sometimes we take our tamas and lethargy and inertia, also mistake it as peace. Okay, that should not happen. So my peace, my silence also make me more dynamic, more powerful. So then I am at work, and then I'm participating in every aspect of life actively. So then there is harmony, there is peace. I experience the equanimity in me. I experience the light in me, freshness in me. I see myself that I'm growing, I'm learning so many things. The universal love is growing in me. I don't have any hatredness for anyone. So when I evaluate myself from this angle, that yes, I'm growing, so there is everything beautiful in life. I see beauty everywhere. I don't contribute anything towards negativity, ugliness, disharmony. Then I know that I am on the right path. These are the simple ways to evaluate oneself.
Dr. Mishra, there is a lot of work that you have done on children, and I do have to say that in the current generation of kids that we are seeing, they are graduating away from Sanatani values. So how do we bring them back? They need something that makes the Sanatani values look cool, right?
Mhm.
Kids like anything that looks cool, and only then they're going to copy that. Otherwise, they call it boring. Whether it is meditation, yoga, or whatever else. So what do you have to say about that, and how can we bring them back to our core Sanatani values?
Okay. So the real education has to begin from home. So there lies the clue. So if at home the parents and all members of the family, they are following strictly the path of Sanatana Dharma, children will definitely follow it. The real sanskara has to be given at home. Secondly, in the educational scenario, like we send our children to the school or any other educational organization, so the content and the content delivery mechanism, so we need to see that they have enough content which are organized. I mean, these contents are organized around the central teaching of our ancient rishis. Okay. The central teaching of, say, Vedanta, Gita, Darshana, Tantra. So, what we call, like, where we find the core civilizational values. So, they must be an integral part of our curriculum. They must be the text, the content that we create must be in harmony with the pedagogical philosophy of Bharat, the content delivery mechanism that the teachers, the mentors, the facilitators which use must follow this pedagogical philosophy of Bharat. Then only we can, like, convey the right kind of message to the children, and the children have to be taught in a very different environment. They have to be taught. Actually, education, there has to be these three components when a facilitator has to follow. The first component is that there should not be any kind of instruction to the children. Rather, the facilitator must awaken the children to the truth, to the light, to the values. So, not
So,
instruction, not by instruction, but by awakening.
by awakening.
By
So,
awakening.
by awakening, right. So I have this question on awakening because related to awakening, we have heard of this Avadhan Kala. I hope I'm pronouncing it correct. I have
Avadhana kala. Avadhana.
Avadhana Kala. Okay, okay. All right, Avadhan Kala. So I've heard about this one, and it really it's something that helps in the power of concentration. How can this help our children? And one thing I wanted to point out that I heard that. Earlier in like maybe I don't know, maybe a few years back, our masters could play chess with 10 people at the same time because they used to practice something like that. So maybe if you can throw some more light on that, and that may interest children.
Okay. So, just to take it forward, where I pointed out about not by instruction but by awakening. So, one more important thing also, not by instruction, by awakening, but and by example, by drishtanta, and by influence. This influence doesn't mean that one has to exercise one's the influence of one's own position or status, but influence the children by one's own presence. Like, children will feel that, okay, oh, this teacher carries a very different presence, different aura. So that is how the teachers have to prepare themselves. The parents have to be, the elders have to be, the mentors, the facilitators have to prepare themselves. And it's actually teaching, or being a teacher, being a mentor, is also the sadhana of yoga. So I remember, like, I come from Sri Aurobindo's, school of thought. So Sri Aurobindo once said, like, every teacher has to be a yogi. Then only that we can really create a beautiful educational environment. And this is what you will find when you come to this art form, what you mentioned about Avadhana Kala. So most of the Avadhanis, the master performers, or who have kept till date the Avadhana tradition alive by their own discipline, by their own practice, by mastering this art form. If you look at them, if you look at their personalities, so without a very deep discipline, it's difficult to attain to such state of mastery in this
Very
art
true.
form.
Very
So
true.
this
Yes.
art form, this art form is all about memory. This art form is all about our inner faculties, cognitive faculties, like concentration, uh, retention, recollection, observation, imagination, creativity, our language ability, our power of expression, and, and the amiability of the personality, the namrata. the
Right.
humility, and bahu shastra jnatva. That means like one has to have the knowledge of many branches of knowledge, and all these uh, cannot happen without following a certain discipline. But when we look at the avadhana, the way it happens, there you see the mastery of the avadhani on many subjects. But what we need to do is to translate this discipline, the technique, or the different principles or different things that one finds in avadhana, translating those principles into some practical terms and bring it to a classroom situation or into day-to-day life. So how we can make our children having a great memory power, having logical thinking, have a good power of expression, have original thought powers develop in them, their language skill, their creativity, their power of imagination, their refinement of their senses. So what we do now, we have created certain simple models, simple forms of like through workshops or training programs. So we do help children developing their memory power, refinement of their senses, the sense development program, because this is where the key to success lies. So without the power of concentration, without the power of careful attention or attentive concentration, that one cannot succeed in anything in life. So that's why Swami Vivekananda, he said that if I have to do my schooling again, I will not go and study anything. The only thing that I will do is that I will increase the power of my concentration. And with that developed power of concentration, I can study facts at will. So this is the concentration is the key to all success. So one wants to become an athlete or scientist or genius or anything in life. Concentration is the key. And this is what we find in today's world lacking in the children and adults, with everyone. So our attention span has reduced to maybe 60 seconds or little more than that. So this being the situation, so how do we help our children to succeed in life and making life truly beautiful, beautiful in a true sense? Now they say that we have become successful, we have a good job, we have money, we have everything, but that is not the success of life. So one has to know how to live life beautifully, harmoniously, peacefully, full of dynamism, not a life full of disharmony, ugliness, and full of disease. And even though like one has money, so life has to be beautiful. Life has to be, like full of ananda. Life has to be chandomaya. Life has to be full of rhythm, okay, full of music. So how do we help our children to understand that and then contribute positively towards creating a positive society, not contributing negatively towards the society? So that is the reason that we don't find that positivity around. So this is where the educational institutes, the facilitators, mentors can help children by creating this kind of beautiful program where they are helped in developing their senses, their inner cognitive faculties. So that is those are the real values which we must inculcate in the children. So this is where Avadhana Kala, the way it is, has been preserved till date by dedicated Avadhanis, so can help, children to inculcate such deeper values, the soul values.
So, Dr. Mishra, I think there are lots of questions, obviously, we cannot cover in this 1 hour. But I think one of the words that you used was practical or practicable, And one of the things that we face here as Indian Americans is, of course, we are living in a very Western environment. I mean, that is common in the curriculums in India also, for example. But if we have to sort of imbibe some of these values or input them into the curriculum. I do see that Avadhan Kala could probably be one of those courses, but do you think that we would need to sort of develop a more Rishi traditions and a Gurukul environment for this sort of a sort of knowledge to percolate into our children, or can we do it in a practical manner in the existing situation where we are? Can we still raise children who build strong character and can interact with an environment which may be a little bit not hostile but different from, say, Bharatiya value systems? That is a real reality we face, including the what you just mentioned was some negativities. We also face that, and that would be my next question. But maybe you can answer this one question as to how can we make it practicable.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, when we think of the practical aspect of bringing these values, so immediately we think of this idea of Gurukul, right? This is maybe like a Gurukul model of education will help. But I have been observing it that the moment we say Gurukul, again, many people have that, oh, again, going back to the past, okay, becoming the past. So the idea of Gurukul system of education must not create this sense of being, like in the past, or going back to the past, or clinging to the past. So we must understand what happened in a Gurukul system of education, the core values of a Gurukul system of education. The core values of a Gurukul system of education, that there was absolute freedom. Okay. The child was not initiated to the education system unless and until the child had the real aspiration for knowledge. And this very aspiration for knowledge or aspiration for growth was also created by the ecosystem, again, like where the child feels like, yeah, I must know, I must grow, I must, like live a different kind of life. There has to be this aspiration, intense aspiration for knowing more and more to oneself. Second thing is that there was no fixed curriculum, there was no fixed, discipline which everyone has to follow, that one size fits all. This was not the Gurukul system of education. Every child's education was well taken care of by the guru, by the mentors, by the acharyas, by taking into consideration the swabhava and swadharma of the child. We do say that every child is unique, but we have not developed the unique way of teaching or bringing out the uniqueness of that child. Okay. We are still following this one size fits all model. Everyone has to sit in the classroom, follow the same curriculum, same syllabus, same way of teaching, and then write the same examination and then pass out. Then we say that is a good student. We have forgotten how to bring this system of man making, nation building, and character building education. We have failed to educate children to become man, become free from their animal consciousness, or at least become man. We have failed to bring out that manness, that human component in the children, that characters, like how is character built? Whatever, like is our thought, whatever we observe through our senses, what we see, what we feel, what we smell, what we taste, what we hear, if those are good, the Vedic rishis used the word bhadra, bhadram karane bhisrunuyama, bhadra, listening Bhadra, seeing Bhadra. So Bhadra means whatever is good for our soul's progress. So if we are listening and observing everything Bhadra through our senses, then the imprint in our consciousness is Bhadra. And that imprint creates the Bhadra character. Okay. That Bhadra character again leads towards the Bhadra thought. We will have noble thoughts. Because whatever we have observed, our consciousness, whatever is imprinted in our consciousness, it is Bhadra, it is good, positive, full of light, full of truth, carries a different presence. So it will allow those kind of, and our thoughts, noble thoughts, will result in noble action. And our noble action will result in creating noble destiny. So this is the process. So can in our education system we have to groom the children in a manner that the real character is built. Real character is built. So this character building education was the most important part of Gurukul. The uniqueness of every child was taken care of. Okay. So then people ask this question, is this practical in this world? Can we have? We just have to get rid of that. Like, I come from Sri Aurobindo Ashram. Perhaps in the whole world, we have a school there running since 1940s. So where there is no fixed curriculum, there is no examination, there is no certificate. For around 450 odd students, we have around 300 teachers. Remember that no teacher is paid for his service. No student pays any fee for education. So that is well taken care of. The students come because there is a joy of learning. The teachers teach because they love teaching. Okay. This is how a very different ecosystem is created. I don't say that, you know, that everywhere this system should be followed, but at least the values, what is being created, what is being thought about in bringing this kind of education, much of those inner values of educational values can be implemented in schools, in the normal education system. So the problem is that we have been following a system of education. Why education? In our governance, in our policy, in bureaucracy, in politics, everywhere we're following a system which is not conducive to, which is not in harmony with the swabhava of our nation, the swabhava of Bharat. So this is where lies the problem. If we can align everything with the swabhava of Bharat, then I think we can create a beautiful educational environment where our children will grow physically, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and spiritually strong, with strong character. And that is the kind of characters the ancient gurus sent to the society. That's how they built healthy society, strong society, not weak society.
Dr. Mishra, there are some very, very important points and pearls of wisdom that you have just spoken. You know, this whole, I mean, I'm not saying, I'm not like demeaning examination, but the entire uh, goal of life, you know, when a child is born till they are out of college, the entire goal of life is just to somehow pass examinations, get high grades, and just compete so that you get to a point where you are able to take care of your basic needs. But the needs of the soul or the character are completely ignored in the modern education system. And we see there's so many suicides that are happening. Children are committing suicide because they are not able to handle the pressure of uh, the current education system. So definitely there is some uh, introspection and some analysis, inner awakening also that needs to happen in parents and educators, that there's something not right, something that they're not doing right. And I think this, what you said, is the right approach. Unless and until the child has a love of learning, it does not, they may just learn out of fear, but then they are going to forget after some time. That knowledge is of no use to them. Because I remember I've studied some, I've studied some subjects which never came to my use, some of the concepts, and I used to just think, why am I learning? I'm never going to use it again, right? And nowadays,
So our
Google is
education
sharing
system
knowledge.
is giving us something. Our education system, the way it is educating the children. So after this education, sometimes, why sometimes, most of the times, in most of the cases, doesn't really help bringing solutions to the challenges of life, because it has never helped in
Very well.
manifesting those aspects which would be helpful in living the life in a true sense.
True
Like I
sense.
remember a very small story which I read. So it's a story of a baby camel asking the mom camel, saying that, "Mom, can you tell me why do we have this big hunch on the back, and why do we have this thick eyelashes, and why do we have this rounded hooves?" So the mom camel said, "My dear child, because we are desert animals, so this big horns helps us, like storage of water, so then we don't lack water in the desert. The thick eyelashes, they help us protecting our eyes from the sands entering into it when storm takes place. The rounded hooves, the flat hooves, it helps us walking on the sand. Like if we had a split in the hoof, so the sand will enter and it will create difficulty. So cows and other animals cannot walk like the way camels will walk on the desert. So the baby camel said, "My God, mom, like thank you for answering these questions. I carried these questions for a long time. But I understand that we are desert animals, these rounded hooves, thick eyelashes, and the big horns, they help us in the desert. But one thing I do not understand, mom, what the hell are we doing in the zoo? You understand?
Right.
So,
Oh God. Yes, of course. What the hell are we
yeah.
doing in the
So we
zoo?
have everything, but it's not good in life. In the zoo, the same way we are educated, we have everything, but when the real challenges of life comes, our inner faculties are unused. We have so many beautiful faculties and so many beautiful abilities, but we are not using them.
I think we probably
Yeah, I think the screen froze. But I
let
have I think one important question. I think we just have like 10 minutes to go now.
sure.
So I don't know if Dr. Mishra, are you back? Can you hear us?
Well, I think
I
we
thought
can.
that was a very
I
hilarious
think it was, but
example.
it is so true. This is a very large zoo in which we all are. We don't know what the hell we are doing here, and we never asked this question. At least the baby camel asked this question to his mom. We never asked this question: why we are here, where we came from, and then what happens to our life, and why we are living this life, and then what, and we just die. Is that all life is meant for? We never asked this
Yeah, I
question.
was just thinking of that. Like, see, Indian society, Dharmic society was built on the four Purusharthas. Uh, and what happens here is we have Kama and Artha, but we don't have Dharma and Moksha. In the Western model, and that is why we always miss that goal of a bigger super consciousness within us, or developing our own inner being. So I think that is that missing element which people are always searching for. And eventually, when they find that they reach that Maslow's hierarchy,
Mhm.
eventually what happens is graduate towards India. They go towards some, whether it's Julia Roberts or Jim Carrey or Steve Jobs or, all of these people, they eventually, lot of the people who have reached a certain level of achievement in physical and material world, they end up then finding their peace in Indian spiritual thought.
Right.
So,
That's right. That is a priceless gift that Sanatan has given, India has given to this world,
yes.
because we see all these millionaires, billionaires, and people who have had very successful lives, yet they commit suicide. They go into depression. There's definitely something missing, and the answer lies in our Eastern philosophy, in the Sanatan. So I am not sure. I just received a message from him that he is having a glitch, but I think whatever he has given to us today, even in this 45 minutes, if we are, oh, he's back. Okay,
I think I want to ask him a question about caste and varna, just because.
there he is.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
I'm so glad you're back.
So yeah, internet went off, so I'm connecting from my mobile data. So the
I
Wi-Fi
think we have
maybe
one
there is
very
work.
important question before another glitch happens or another we're almost over, like the time. We have about 10 more minutes. And the question I have is, I know we spoke about so many things. Like, I think one of the shlokas that I was remembering from the Gita is Swadharma Nidhanam Shreya. That is something that you spoke about from the beginning, and then about the practical elements that we need to customize a course for our children or a path for each of our child. And one of the other things we spoke about while you were reconnecting was that Indic society, the civilizational ethos is based on the four purusharthas, and the dharma and moksha are missing in our framework in the Western educational system. And that is something that Sanatana practices give us. And hence, we do need to bring back Sanskrit. I feel like so I have twofold questions for you, Dr. Mishra. One is about the fact that what our current curriculum teaches our children. For example, in Hinduism, the main thing they teach us, Hinduism is based on caste. So it is a foreign term, and I know that you would be able to. You have such deep knowledge of etymology, and varna is equated to caste in our textbooks. Everything is Hindu is aligned to varna and to called caste, hierarchical. But varna, as you would be probably the best person to enlighten us on, it has so many different meanings. Like, I have known varna as varna mala, of course varna ashram, and varna, in general known as the four the divisions of human humans as such. So I don't know if you would be able to, in this short time, give us some insight into how to deal with what we are being taught in our textbooks, how to make our children grounded, and also, of course, we do want to know what you think of the term Varna and how to fight the whole caste war that is happening right now here. We are caste is being imposed on us right now as a defining term for Indian Americans. So we need some solutions there as
Even in India,
Sure.
it's happening in India also. It's being used
yes.
as a tool.
Everywhere,
It's
everywhere.
being weaponized to divide the Hindus. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's because like our approach is not a consciousness based approach.
Yeah.
We are not taking care of the growth of human consciousness,
Very true.
of the refinement of human consciousness. Varna has nothing to do with caste system. That is something which everyone needs to be clear. Varna has nothing to do with caste system. Varna is the Varna Vyavastha, or the very idea of Varna is very deep, very spiritual at its core. And in a very practical sense, what our rishis have explained to us, and what many spiritual masters also did the same thing, that human consciousness has many powers. There are many aspects of human consciousness. So there are four major powers of human consciousness, four major powers, the Shakti, Samarthya. So there is the power of wisdom, there is the power of strength, heroic strength, there is the power of love and harmony, there is the power of perfection, meticulousness, hard work. These are the four major powers, along with other powers of consciousness. But these are the four major powers. They are present in every human being. Who doesn't have a love for knowledge and wisdom? Who doesn't like to protect oneself when there is a need? Who doesn't like to have that heroic strength? Who doesn't like to have love and harmony, however dangerous a person may be? But one definitely has love for one's own family members, one's own members. Okay. And who doesn't like to work hard for, you know, moving forward and bringing perfection to it? These are all part of human consciousness. So the Rishi tradition could, like, look at these four as the four major powers. And one of these powers is always predominant, prominent in each one of us. So someone may have an intense aspiration for wisdom. Someone may have an like intense feeling that, okay, I like this heroic strength, okay, like fighter spirit. So in someone it may be like love and harmony, compassion, sympathy, empathy, like what the philanthropist do. Okay. So every one of us, we have a philanthropist within us. Everyone has a, every one of us, we have a rishi sitting in us, passionate for knowledge and wisdom. So then the same way, there is there are many people who have that sense of working out
So,
perfection in everything.
I'm sorry to
Hardworking.
interrupt, Sampadananji, but in terms of the etymology of the term varna, I would like
Mhm.
you to also talk about that because they always talk about it as colorism here, as color.
No,
Is that
I'll come to
also,
that. I'll come
can
to
you,
that.
yeah, can you also
Yes,
add that?
I'll come to that. So that is where I will explain you like what. So now, whatever is predominant in me, that is what is describing me as me. Okay. So if the power of wisdom is prominent in me, so that is what is my defining character. Okay. So what describes me is my varna. The word varna comes from the root sound varna, which means varnanam, description. Okay. You say, na, if this is a varnanam of something, description of something. So this describes me, like the power of wisdom describes me. This is my defining character. Or the power of heroic strength is describing me as my defining character. This is what is varna. Varna also has the sense of color, but in this sense, it's not the color. It is the description. It describes me. Okay. So looking at these four major powers, our ancient seers, looking at the guna dharma, they organized the society, and they called it the power of wisdom as the Brahma Shakti and Brahmana, Kshatra Shakti, the Kshatriya, Vaishya Shakti, the Vaishya, and Shudra Shakti, the Shudra. And they kept the Shudras at the highest level because there lies the secret to complete the rest of the gunas. Like a Brahmin is not a complete Brahmin without being a Shudra, without awakening the Shudra Shakti within. Because in Shudra Shakti, there is the humility, there is the sense of surrender, there is the hard work, A Kshatriya is not a complete Kshatriya without awakening the Shudra Shakti. Okay.
It's
The Vaishya
beautiful,
is not a
beautiful
complete
explanation,
without,
really.
awakening the Shudra Shakti within himself. The Shudra Shakti means there has to be a lot of humility. There has to be surrender. The Shudra doesn't mind doing anything. Okay. It doesn't consider any work as low, any work as high. His whole spirit is to work out perfection, hard work, meticulousness, aspiring for perfection. So that is something which has to be inculcated by every human being. So that is how one becomes complete. Even Sri Aurobindo goes one step ahead. He says the integral person has to have all the four powers fully manifest. So one is at the same time a complete Brahmana, complete Kshatriya, complete Vaishya, and complete Shudra. That is the kind of character we see in Chanakya, in Shankaracharya, all the great leaders you see, in Chhatrapati Shivaji. Look at every aspect of their life. They're Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra at the same time. Okay. Like in our village, also in our family, my grandfather used to tell me that you should prepare yourself in such a manner that from you know stitching your shoes, then to the doing the chandi पाठ. बोलते जूता सिलाई से लेकर चंडी पाठ तक हर काम में दक्ष बनना. That is what brings strength to life. So this is what is the original idea behind the Varna Vyavastha. So we can take up the same thing. Like recently, yesterday I wrote an article where I've given a framework. Okay, looking at all the different kinds of occupations that we have, taking into consideration these four major powers of human consciousness, we can put them. We can create a different Varna system in our present society, not confining them to the birth. I may be born in a particular family, like I am born in a Brahmin family, but my temperament and my brother's temperament are very different. But we come from the same family. His spirit is a fighter spirit. He's more of a Kshatriya, and I'm more of a Brahman. If you look at the predominant one in the same family, my father was very different. My sisters are very different. We come from the same family. So everyone is unique. So we can look at the predominant temperament, the predominant power in everyone, and then accordingly we can create a very different Varna Vyavastha in the present society. This can keep changing, but these are the original ideas behind the Varna Vyavastha.
So it's
Doctor,
individual based, not a family based, but individual based, right?
It's
That's what.
individual. It's not family based. It's not family based.
Oh,
Dr.
fantastic.
Sampadananda, Richa, I don't have words to describe what a beautiful conversation this has been. And I really hope that our audience benefits from this. So, first of all, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for please, that both of you are such busy personalities that you took time off your busy schedule and you gave this time to Bharat TV. This is what is needed at this stage, where right now you are all aware of what is going on around the world. And in the current affairs, what we need is a rising of consciousness. So it was a pleasure to have you, Dr. Sampadananda, and RichaGautam on our show. It's very heartening to see the revival of Sanskrit and so much work being done to bring us back to our Sanatani roots. We are always so very grateful to people like Sampadananda ji who are working tirelessly towards this great cause. And thank you, dear viewers, for joining us in this show. Have a wonderful evening.